The Royal Rumble is supposed to be about wrestling returns. But now, on the eve of the Royal Rumble 2024, we've had easily the biggest wrestling departure of all time. Vince McMahon. Again. He has done this, but he has left the company before, quite recently, like a year and a half ago. If you haven't already, there's a link in the video description below that is to the WrestleTalk news that covers all of the lawsuit that's been filed against Vince McMahon that came out on the 25th of January. That has numerous and pretty descriptive and horrific accusations of sexual abuse. Go and watch that first and you'll be caught up for where we are now. Because then, on the 26th of January, an unlikely bit of pressure from an unlikely partner came into play. Because Slim Jim, the American snack food brand, had been rumoured that they were pulling all of their long-term partnership deals with WWE. First, WrestleVotes heard that rumour and reported on it, so Post Wrestling got a statement directly from Slim Jim where they said, Slim Jim values integrity and respect in all of our partnerships. Given the recent disturbing allegations against Vince McMahon, at this time we've decided to pause our promotional activities with WWE. The decision reflects our commitment to our brand values and responsibility to our community. We will continue to monitor the situation and base our future engagements on our values and what's best for our brand. This was likely the first domino to fall. Like, if you just imagine a Slim Jim and loads of other Slim Jims, those are other sponsor partners, this Slim Jim would knock over all of the other ones. It's the canary in the coal mine. A sponsor pulling out from a long-term partnership. I really like when you go back to the 90s and 80s, it's those Randy Savage commercials with Slim Jim. Or is that WCW? Anyway, they're the same company now. Slim Jim and wrestling have a long running partnership in promotional capabilities. So for them to pull out now, based on this lawsuit, is indicative that many other sponsors would follow suit. And that is a huge deal for WWE and the parent company of it, TKO. Most of WWE's eventual good actions in the past have come because sponsors have said, you can't do that. When we were going to have the Fabulous Moolah themed classic, it was Snickers, I believe, who pulled that sponsorship, or were rumoured to be pulling that sponsorship, that forced the name change. It wasn't the classic, it was the Battle Royal at WrestleMania. Snickers, or whoever the sponsor was, threatening to pull their sponsorship was what made WWE change their mind. Because it's about money at the end of the day. So that was enormous pressure. It's because it wasn't just Slim Jim, it was a sign that this would have a ripple effect across WWE's sponsor partners. Partners you do not want to lose. So it resulted in Vince stepping down. First off, Sean Ross Sapp announced that staff in WWE were sent this message. I wanted to inform you that Vince McMahon has tendered his resignation from his positions as TKO Executive Chairman and on the TKO Board of Directors. He will no longer have a role with TKO Group Holdings or WWE. That was from Nick Khan. Deadline also saw that email. That was an internal email to TKO staff, not one that was sent to journalists. Because that was left to Vince McMahon himself, who issued this statement to ESPN. I stand by my prior statement that Miss Grant's lawsuit is replete with lies, obscene made-up instances that never occurred, and is a vindictive distortion of the truth. I intend to vigorously defend myself against these baseless accusations and look forward to clearing my name. However, out of respect for the WWE universe, this extraordinary TKO business and its board members and shareholders, partners and constituents, it's usually a word you hear in local governments, and all of the employees and superstars who helped make WWE into the global leader it is today, I have decided to resign from my executive chairmanship and the TKO board of directors, effective immediately. So Vince McMahon, while he does still own 11% of TKO stock, is no longer in an official role within the company. There's arguments this is just sort of the underlining of a process that's been happening since the merger was announced back in April. I think Vince probably thought him doing the deal with Ari Emanuel for Endeavour and UFC to merge with WWE into TKO was a way for Vince to get control back of the company that he was forced out of in mid-2022. But it seemed over the course of that summer that Ari Emanuel took more and more responsibilities away from Vince. Creative was given exclusively to Triple H. The TV rights deals were more Nick Khan, although he had an almost ceremonial role in that. Yeah, he was in Saudi Arabia for deals like that, and there was a weird Dana White interview where Dana White said that Vince helped him put together a Saudi deal and was doing phone calls for him, which I can't imagine Vince McMahon ever doing phone calls for anyone. And then he was on Tuesday, on the 23rd of January, when they announced the big Netflix deal and The Rock's appointment to the board of directors. Vince was on the stage with them at the Wall Street Stock Exchange. But yeah, now he will no longer be involved in any of that running. He is purely a shareholder, a big shareholder, but not a majority one anymore of the company. So PW Insider have some reports on how this has been received backstage. Unsurprisingly, a feeling of relief after, 40 years of this very disruptive and toxic boss. Separate to all of the stuff in the lawsuit, we already knew there were plenty of allegations and just complaints about the WWE work environment in general. When Triple H took over, just like when he was in charge of NXT, people were a lot happier. They just felt a lot more satisfied in their role. That relief, however, I don't think extends to the people who were close to Vince McMahon. Because PW Insider go on to say there is a belief in WWE that Endeavour, which is the parent company of TKO, will clean house and get rid of anyone close to McMahon in order to have a, quote, fresh start for the company. They specifically speculate about employees that left the company when Vince left back in July or June 2022 and returned when he had forced his way back into the company. Those are your Vince loyalists right there. So they'll probably be the people that Endeavour are going to start with on the chopping block. PWI reportedly spoke to those who remained with the company post-merger, and their sources said anyone's connection to McMahon may be seen as a major negative going forward. And that's unsurprising. If you've read that lawsuit, and I'm so sorry if you have in detail, because it's sort of, you need eye bleach after reading it. It doesn't seem like it's just a McMahon and a few others. There's plenty of stories about, and McMahon shared it with this group of people and this group of people. It seems like a lot of people were connected to Vince. Well, obviously he was running the company. So it'll be interesting to see how much of a cleaning house is done. It's not like Endeavour are hurting for talent, because they had the UFC. They had a lot of these back office roles, production roles, etc. They had those for the UFC already. So you don't actually have to go out, oh no, we've got to recruit all these people. Not that you should get too bogged down in admin when you're doing the right thing, but just entertain me. You can just have those UFC employees take the WWE roles, and then you get rid of all the WWE roles that might have been connected to Vince McMahon to do that cleaning house. Anyway, people in the company, this is again according to PW Insider, claim that they felt Vince was a this is a quote, black cloud hanging over everything, even when he wasn't involved in much, because he had been pulled back from the creative side of things. And, there are a couple of times as early as last summer where he was at the shows, he was ripping up scripts before it started. It really does seem to be a total damage control situation, pun not intended. I know they're a current faction in WWE because PW Insider also reports that there was a shirt celebrating Vince McMahon's 1999 Royal Rumble win, which was available at the Tampa Raymond James Stadium, which is where the Royal Rumble 2024 is taking place. That was sort of a commemorative novelty shirt you could buy. That has been pulled from everywhere, from the WWE superstar, by yesterday morning. And yesterday afternoon it was pulled from the online store as well. In terms of SmackDown, because there was an episode of SmackDown last night, we've kind of lived through this before, because when Vince resigned as CEO and chairman, although he still lingered in the company of WWE because of those mounting allegations previously, back in May, June, July 2022, he showed up on that night's episode of SmackDown. Apparently, he was reportedly... he wanted to sort of cut a promo, like, we won't give in to these lawsuits and stuff, but people talked him down from that. I believe that's the same show where Brock Lesnar found out about Vince McMahon's removal and that he was stepping down, and Brock was like, I'm walking out then. If Vince is gone, I'm gone. Of course, the lawsuit does point towards a UFC heavyweight champion that was... sort of, involved in some of these things. Again, please go to the video to see exactly what they're. And the speculation is, and the Washington Post themselves have pointed at Brock Lesnar for that. So it does show that incident in a bit of a different light now. So, yeah, he did not show up, thankfully, on the 26th of January, last night's episode of SmackDown. But can he even come back? That's the thing. Before, there was a lot of corporate succession-style legal wranglings where he had multiple ways to get back into the company. He was obviously unhappy that he got forced out, and he, even though the entire board in December of 2022 voted, "Do not come back, Vince," he found a way to replace half of the board, kind of get rid of his own daughter, who was the co-CEO, Stephanie McMahon. How Succession is that? And then reinsert himself because he was going to block any kind of sale. And that's what WWE were trying to manufacture at the time. Of course, then he facilitated the sale. And like I said at the start of the video, I think Vince thought, I've done a master stroke there. I've now chess moved myself into a position of power again, and I'm running the company. Take that, everyone who tried to get rid of me. What I think he misunderstood there was that there were probably forces above him that were playing an extra dimension of chess, the proverbial 4D chess, because as Dave Meltzer points out, this is very unlike the 2022 situation, because Vince no longer has that majority voting power within the new corporate entity. WWE and UFC merged into TKO, which diluted his shares, and then he also did a big stock sell-off, I think about a third of his still-owned shares late last year. So Dave Meltzer has posted on X, Vince really isn't coming back this time. He doesn't have the voting power. That lawsuit made it impossible. Sponsor pullouts can be a domino, and they needed to stop the dominoes from falling immediately. So I guess the question is, even if, well, Vince probably would want to come back. I think we can assume that. But now it's in a position where the company he has partly sold, the decision's with them, the ball's in their court. Do TKO want Vince back? I think from what we've read so far, from the report that came out last August, it wasn't even a report. It was an actual filing by TKO identifying Vince's circumstances as a potential danger to their business. He was, by their very own legal department, identified as a liability as early as August last year. The FBI went to search his office because of these larger investigations in the board investigation. But it's been a hell of a week, hasn't it? On Tuesday, on the 23rd of January, The Rock was appointed to the WWE Board of Directors, and they announced a huge media landscape changing deal with Netflix for 5 or 10 or 20 years, whatever it is. And then there's the Royal Rumble on Saturday. It's going to be a huge event, kayfabe-wise. It kicks off the biggest time of the year for WWE, the road to WrestleMania. And then in the middle of that, bang in the middle, on Thursday, the 25th of January, Janelle Grant's lawsuit comes out, which gets rid of Vince McMahon. Now, if you look at it from Grant's legal team's perspective, let's just pretend you only know the publicly available information, so you don't know that Netflix, you don't know about The Rock. It's just the Royal Rumble's this Saturday. So you would perhaps say, let's release this lawsuit 2 days before the Royal Rumble to gain maximum publicity for our case and to also put the most pressure on the person we're accusing to see what happens. You know, it's a smart strategy in how you would release information. But yeah, it's very good time. If this is a coincidence, TKO have very, very lucky because the fact that they had already done The Rock being appointed to the board of directors, you know, in terms of corporate governance, wow, what a hire. You know, Vince McMahon would also be part of that corporate governance. And then the huge Netflix deal, that has insulated somewhat their share price from anything that goes on with the Vince stuff now. And now he's been forced out. Well, forced out. He had to go. That sounds a lot more active than what it probably ended up being. So yeah, wow. We're not going to have our usual video today. We were going to have a tables, this and chairs video. We'll push that back to next Saturday. And we're going to try and enjoy the Royal Rumble this evening with our watch-along party. So please do subscribe and enable notifications to watch along live with us later today. But I've been Ollie Davis. Jam that jam.